Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a impromptu Neurodiversity Explores. And today we're going to be discussing self-care. Now, especially after the past week, self-care is something I've been doing a lot of. So I thought I'd share my thoughts, experiences, and a few tips and tricks I've picked up along the way. Because whether you are neurodivergent or a loved one or caregiver of somebody who's neurodivergent, self-care is important to pretty much everyone. Now, over the past 2 weeks, I've been in high stress situations, I've been away from my home surroundings, I've been working like a dog. And obviously, as with everybody, it grinds you down. You get to the end of the week, you lose all of your energy, you don't know what to do, you don't know what you want to do. And then you end up doing loads of stuff just because you can, and you get back to Monday and hey presto, we've forgotten what we was doing. And for me, this week, well, last week, was quite possibly the worst week I've had in a while. Because throughout the course of the week, with all of the high stress situations and everything else, I totally neglected my self care. And the time I realised I'd neglected my self care was when Saturday I got home, and one thing caused me to have a full-blown panic attack, and also the biggest meltdown I've had in a long time, lasting several hours. So as soon retrospectively I realised, oops, forgotten my bits of self-care here. And obviously because of the past weeks and also the work stress at the moment as well, I'm now making up for it. So as you can see, I'm sat in my comfies. I'm sat with one of my teddies that I use for my sensory needs. My light is currently blue, and if you see something moving down there, don't worry, it's not a rat, it's one of our chihuahuas. Because again, in times like this, Holly is my special friend because she gives me cuddles. She doesn't judge me. She doesn't take pity on me or anything else. She just loves me unconditionally, and sometimes that's all we need. And hello, Victoria. Yes, fluffball cuddles. That is the one, Emma, and welcome. So I just wanted to kind of share a bit of my experiences with self-care, especially as an autistic individual, because different situations call for different types of self-care. So, and effectively, self-care is effectively coping strategies that we deploy to self-regulate, to get us back on track, to help us carry on with the rest of the day, or even to force us to take a day away so we can regroup and come back stronger. Uh, so, yes, it definitely would, Victoria. You know, fluff balls and dog cuddles are definitely the best. I've got 9 of them. Perhaps I should start renting them out at bedtime. Send them via UPS. I've just got to remember to poke holes in the boxes when I courier them. Sorry. Hold on. I think, yeah, because I'm currently low masking at the moment, I am going to go ahead and throw this note. Yep. Everything I'm about to say is purely my opinion and personal experience. It isn't the same for everybody because everybody's not me. Also, I will throw this up, but there may be trigger warnings, so I apologise if I do forget. At the minute, I'm still in burnout, so my functioning to be able to spot when I need to trigger warning things isn't entirely there. So, for me, if I've just had a stressful day and it's been a high paced day where my social battery's taken a beating, then 9 out of 10 times you'll see me in my dressing gown with a cup of tea, which, ta-da! And you'll also see me with one of my furry toys, because I love absolutely stimming off the fluffiness of them and the softness of them. And even when I'm talking to you, what you can't actually hear is I do currently have classical music going on through my headphones as well, because it's all of the things that chill me out, allow me to start winding down and switching off. Because especially when you're in a state where you're drained and you just literally have nothing left to give, that's when you start thinking about everything. Because your brain suddenly kicks in at 100 miles an hour, you then struggle to sleep. So, as Victoria says, it's nearly bedtime, so actually, now's the ample time to actually enact my self care so that I can get myself to a stage where I can sleep and then I can wake up fresh in the morning, ready to just go ahead and tackle another day, as it were. Oh, toothless. Yeah, see, that's it. As soon as I go to bed, I have to have a TV on. If there's no background noise, my brain just physically can't switch off. It's kind of as if you're tricking your brain into, yes, you're doing something, and while your brain's focusing on the TV, your other side of the brain saying, right, sleep, let's go. Yeah, Jedi mind tricks with your own mind. And I think especially as a PDA, I definitely can't just set myself a bedtime because as soon as I try and do that, my body just goes, nope, not gonna happen. There you go. So, audio books, uh, more stuffies. We love stuffies. And a fan or white noise. You're definitely not the only one, Victoria. And I found as well that even limiting what I eat and drink while I'm doing self-care is a lot better. So, for example, when I am burnt out or in a state of overwhelm or I'm feeling a bit blue, I'll never eat chocolate because the cacao which is contained inside chocolate can cause you to drop as soon as you've finished the high. And essentially, you can leave yourself worse off. Instead, what I'll do is I will eat a banana to increase the serotonin my body's producing. Or I'll generally just chew on a chew stick just to kind of stim off that. So I can get my oral stims in there to give me some form of normality and routine. Now, that does all change for me because as I go through the stages of how much self care I need, I will swap teddies. I will bring out my weighted blanket, which is sitting over there, which I've actually done so well on my sleep with recently since I've moved house. Uh, that I don't actually need my weighted blanket as much as I used to. And then we will get to the stage where we will, and I'm gonna have to give a shout out as well to one of my good friends here. I best not mention his name just in case he's not comfortable with it. But monkey baths, when I'm in a state where I really need to calm down, I'm too stressed, I'm barely to function, I'll run myself a bath as hot as I can handle it. And I called it a monkey bath because as soon as you get in, you're automatically like, oh, 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 oh. So you have that split second where you suddenly feel everything, and then it just dies down, and you can be mellow. So self-care is important, and it's not only for neurodivergence, but even parents and loved ones of neurodivergent individuals. You know, as a neurodivergent myself, I'll be the first one to admit that I can be really hard to handle sometimes. It can be really hard to keep up with me. It can be so hard to, it can be really hard to actually keep up with my needs, especially with all of my comorbidities. It can change from 1 minute to the next, and that drains the people who care for you and love you and want the best for you as much as it can actually drain the neurodivergent individual just walking around. You know, especially with kids going back to school as well. So many parents are so run down from the 6 weeks holiday, and now return to schools impending, and those children who have education other than school or are currently deregistered or not attending school, that brings its own set of worries as well. So I'm just going to quickly have a look at this comment so I can process it and respond. I'm just going to put it up, Victoria. Yeah, I totally get that in regards to sometimes food's not being an option. You know, it's like chocolate for me. I've got to be really in the mood for chocolate. And also textures. I will go from absolutely loving a food and only eating that food until I just don't want it anymore. This week I fancy this, and that's all I'm going to eat this week. And I think especially with my diet, I'm reliant on certain brands. I can tell when something's not a certain brand, and 9 out of 10 times, if it's not the brand I'm used to or like, I'm not going to eat it as much as I'd want to. But again, self-care, the main thing is where your health allows it. Obviously, keep yourself, that's all right. You know, I tend to keep myself stocked up on sugar. I tend to keep myself hydrated. I don't drink water. I don't like the taste of water unless it's got a tea bag, milk, and sugar in. Or I'll drink Sprite occasionally. Drinking again, I'll switch from tea to Sprite to 7 Up. Uh, in a split second from one day to the next, and it is really hard to keep up with, and it's also very draining for those around me, especially when somebody else does your shopping, because then you've also got to spend that extra time making sure that everything on your shopping list is what you actually need and what's going to benefit you until the next shop kind of thing. So I think, especially as an uncle as well to some wonderful autistic nieces and living in a pure neurodivergent household, it's also a part of self-care to remember to, if you are struggling, reach out to other people, reach out to the support groups you're in, drop a couple of your friends a WhatsApp message. Do you know what? I'm having a really crap day today. Because 9 out of 10 times, even if they don't know what to say to you, the fact that somebody's actually there and just listening and is trying to understand actually does you the world of good, because suddenly the world feels like a less lonely place. And especially this weekend, you know, in the middle of a full-blown panic attack and meltdown, I was on the phone to somebody who's actually became a really close friend, and I was struggling to talk, I was struggling to communicate, I was struggling to breathe, and do you know what? Just the fact that she was there helped me loads. And I tend to have different people who help me on different levels. So if I need somebody to just listen and even just nod and agree no matter what I'm saying, then I've got people who will do that for me. If I need somebody to just hear me rant and rant along with me, that person's normally Emma, and she's in the room right here. Hi, Em. And then if I get to the stage where I know what I'd be telling other people, but I physically can't tell myself, normally I phone Tigger Pritchard up, because he's very, we are so alike and we give such similar advice that, because he tells me what I'd tell him if he was in that situation, I actually listen to it, because it's no longer me telling me, it's somebody else. Again, tricking your own brain. Because it's very easy to give out advice, but it's a very hard pill to swallow when you're trying to take your own advice, and it's one of the hardest things. So, you know, especially at the minute in high tense situations, you know, step out into the back garden for 10 minutes. Put a wall between you and your stressors, even if it's only for 5 minutes, just so you can go outside and take a big deep breath, or 10, as the professionals recommend. Or even saying to one of your loved ones, do you know what? I just need 10 minutes. I'm really struggling to cope. And just walking to the end of your road and coming back, or even just going upstairs and dive bombing onto your bed and shoving your head in your pillow, wanting to scream into it. You know, these little things help. And yeah, I'm going to have to broadcast this, because you make a really good point as well, Victoria, that as time goes on, different situations bring you different needs. And it is really hard to communicate those needs sometimes, because sometimes you don't even realize you have those needs until they suddenly appear. You know, you can go from feeling alone and wanting somebody to just hug you and tell you that everything's been all right, to, hey, get the hell off me, I don't want you anywhere near me, in literally a split second. And it's so hard sometimes, especially when you struggle with interpreting body language and everything else. to actually keep on top of others' needs, let alone your own. Because sometimes you'll think, oh, I need this, and you'll start enacting that out, and then realise, actually, no, this isn't working, I need something else, sorry, whether it be something to stim with, like magnets, something to just take your mind off life, to just holding and stroking a stuffy or rubbing your stuffy over the face so you can have the sensations over your face, to even just grabbing a memory stick and just pushing it out and retracting it and dropping it on the floor, which was not intentional. And, you know, just be kind to yourself. If you can see your loved ones distressed, whether you are neurodivergent, whether you're neurotypical, if you can see somebody's distressed, don't assume you know what they need. Ask them if there's anything you can do. If they don't know if there's anything they want you to do, ask if they'd like you to just be there until they're feeling better. If they say no, go and do something else. Because at the time, the person just needs to catch up with themselves and be able to go ahead and regain some normality. And sometimes it's hard when you've got the added pressure of other people being around, because then you're constantly worried because you don't want to affect them, you don't want to trigger them, you don't want to make them feel bad, you don't want them thinking you don't love them anymore or anything else. And, there's so many spirals you can go through when you're not feeling at your absolute best. And that's aside from the irrational thinking. When I was mid meltdowns the other day, my irrational thinking was like, do you know what? I can't be here. I've got to move back to where I came from. I was ready to get a removal van there and then, pack up all of my stuff and just get out of the house and move. Uh, Retrospectively, it's not what I wanted, but at the time, it's what I felt like I needed until could find an alternative solution. In this case, my alternative solution was I bought a new rug. Uh, it's great. Somebody says to me yesterday, okay, so you've explained the whole situation and it's totally valid why you felt that way. How did you overcome it? And my response was, I bought a new rug. It's literally something as silly as that. Because as soon as I put a rug here, I immediately felt safe because I put something of me into the room, kind of thing. So yeah, it was retail therapy. I'm the worst one for retail therapy, to be fair. Impulse buying when you're doing self-care is definitely an occupational hazard, to be fair. I've bought so much stuff when I've been stressed out just to make myself feel excited and give myself a dopamine rush. It is absolutely untrue. But it works for me. Everybody has different things that does work for them. What works for one person may not work for another. And that is okay, you know. And especially when you're in a household with loved ones, take the time to learn and communicate what they need, and also work on communicating what you need. Yeah, yes, definitely. it is okay to not be okay. It's okay to wake up and just to be like, do you know what? Stop the world because I want to get off. Because those are the feelings and emotions that make us humans. Those are the emotions that keep us driving forward to achieve what we want to achieve. It's all of the crap situations we're put in that force us to fight for what we actually want. And as I said to somebody yesterday, it's okay to fall down. It's okay to stay down a little bit because it's how we get back up that defines us. And 9 out of 10 times, we will get back up time and time again. Yet we'll say, I'm not strong enough to cope with this. Yet look back at the past 10 years, the past 5 years, the past 20 years. Look at everything's life thrown at you. Guess what? You're still walking, you're still here. You've overcome everything. And it's okay to have self doubt because that's what keeps us pushing harder to be the best person we can be. And it is okay to cry. I really struggle with crying, and sometimes I want to cry that badly, but I just physically can't, at which point I normally stick on the notebook or A Walk to Remember or P.S. I Love You. Or I sing certain songs just to force me to cry because sometimes it's that build up getting out of my system that does actually make me feel better. Yeah, sometimes you've got to hit the bottom to get back up to the top. Because when we're happy, we automatically feel like we are at the top when retrospectively we're actually not because there's always times where we was happier, we was more excited, we were more content. And it's that crashing and bringing ourselves out of it that gets us right to the top of the meter, pretty much. And it is vital, It is it is a cycle we all go through. I will be going to bed in a second, yes, because I have been live for nearly half an hour and it was only an impromptu. And I'm going to leave with one thought and something that's just reminded me. But one of my best friends, whom I've known for years, has a 12-year-old autistic son. And when he was 6 years old, he came into the living room to me, his mum and his dad, and says, "Do you know with life, one day you're happy, one day you're sad. The next day you're happy, the next day you're sad. I've worked out that life is just an endless cycle of emotions." And that was coming from a 6-year-old. And you've gotta you've gotta see the irony in that a 6-year-old can actually spot those patterns, and he was bang on. And the reason the cycle's there is because without sadness, we wouldn't know what happiness is, and without happiness, we wouldn't know what sadness is. And it's actually that cycle that keeps us seeking both, because without those two emotions, we just wouldn't be able to function. You've got to be sad to grieve, you've got to be sad you've got to be sad when you miss something, when you lose something. You've got to be happy for yourself, your achievements, your accomplishments, your children's accomplishments, other people's accomplishments, and to go hand in hand. But guess what? If you had a bad day today, Don't worry, even if it's only for half an hour over the next few days, you are going to get that happiness. And it's that happiness that will keep you fighting through the sadness. So, on that note, I am going to try and get myself to bed and have some sleep. So, good night, sweet dreams, everyone. And just remember, even though the world's a big place and it can feel really lonely, you're never really alone. So, when you need to, take the time to reach out. And if you've got nowhere that you feel you can reach out to, then look on your doorstep, look at your loved one, look at your friends. How? Look at another parent from you normally chat to at school, because you'll always find help in the place you least expect it. So good night, everyone, and I will see you soon. Take care.